Why couldn't he handle one evening with our daughter without making me feel guilty? I was working hard to support our family too. Tell him you're networking, Felix suggested, reading over my shoulder. Technically true. I typed back, working late on year-end reports, start without me. The lie came easily, which should have been my first warning. Within an hour, the office had transformed. Desks were pushed aside, music played from someone's Bluetooth speaker, and the alcohol flowed freely. My coworkers shed their professional personas, becoming the fun, spontaneous people I rarely saw during business hours. "Eulalie, get over here," called Sarah from accounting. "We're taking pictures for Instagram." I found myself posing with my female colleagues, laughing at jokes that weren't particularly funny, but felt hilarious after 3 drinks. The wine had loosened something inside me, a part of myself I'd buried under years of being Adam's wife and Paige's mother. "You look amazing tonight," Felix whispered in my ear as we posed for another photo. His hand rested on my lower back, and I didn't move away. The compliment sent warmth through my chest. When was the last time Adam had told me I looked amazing? I'd worn my favorite black dress tonight, the one that hugged my curves and made me feel confident, but Adam hadn't even looked up from grading papers when I left. "Dance with me," Felix said as someone cranked up the music. The rational part of my brain, the part that remembered I was married with a 7-year-old daughter at home, whispered warnings. But that voice was getting quieter with each sip of wine, drowned out by the intoxicating feeling of being wanted, admired, desired. We danced close, closer than appropriate for coworkers. Adam paused the video and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger exactly, but something worse, complete disillusionment. "What is it then, Eulalie? Because it looks like my wife dancing inappropriately with another man while our daughter asked me 6 times when mommy was coming home." The mention of Paige sent a stab of guilt through my chest, but I pushed it away. I couldn't let Adam make me feel bad for finally having some fun. I was networking, building relationships with my colleagues. You know how important my job is to our family's finances. Networking? Adam's voice remained calm, which somehow made it worse than if he'd shouted. "Is that what you call letting another man put his hands all over you in front of your entire office?" "Felix was just helping me dance. You're making it sound like something it wasn't." I moved to the refrigerator, needing something to do with my hands. "Maybe if you paid half as much attention to me as you do to your students' homework, I wouldn't need to find friendship elsewhere." It was a low blow, and I knew it. Adam worked incredibly hard as a middle school teacher, often bringing home papers to grade and staying late for parent conferences. But I was feeling cornered, and attacking seemed like my best defense. Adam closed the laptop slowly. "So this is my fault?" I didn't say that. I poured myself a glass of water, trying to buy time to think. "I'm just saying that marriage is supposed to be a partnership. When's the last time you told me I looked nice? When's the last time we went out together, just the 2 of us? When's the last time you asked me to? When's the last time you suggested we get a babysitter instead of staying late at the office?" Adam's composure was starting to crack. "I've been trying to connect with you for months, Eulalie, but every time I suggest we spend time together, you have work to catch up on or you're too tired." The accusation stung because it held a grain of truth. I had been avoiding intimacy with Adam, but not for the reasons he thought. Somewhere along the way, we'd become strangers sharing a house, and I'd found it easier to lose myself in work than confront the growing distance between us. "That's not fair," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from my sister Sandra. "Saw your Instagram stories. Looks like you had fun at the office party." My stomach dropped. If Sandra had seen the videos, that meant they were spreading beyond just my immediate coworkers. How many people had shared them? How far had they traveled through the interconnected web of social media? "Who else has seen this?" I asked, nodding toward the laptop. Adam's expression darkened. "My mother called 20 minutes ago. Apparently, one of her church friends saw it on Facebook and recognized you. She wanted to know if everything was okay with our marriage." The blood drained from my face. Janice Vane had never particularly liked me, always making subtle comments about how I wasn't quite good enough for her precious son. This would be ammunition for her disapproval for years to come. What did you tell her? I told her I'd handle it. Adam stood up, suddenly looking older than his 35 years. But I don't know how to handle this, Eulalie. I don't know how to handle being married to someone who would humiliate our family like this. Humiliate? The word sparked anger in my chest. I danced at an office party. I didn't rob a bank or have an affair. This has been shared quite extensively on social media. Seeing myself on Margaret's phone dancing provocatively while Felix's hands roamed my body made me want to sink through the floor. What had felt empowering and fun in the moment now looked tawdry and unprofessional. I understand this was after hours and technically a social event, Margaret continued, but many of our clients and vendors follow our employees on social media. We need to maintain certain standards of professionalism, even in casual settings. Of course, I completely understand. My voice sounded small and defensive. It was just harmless fun. Maybe the alcohol made it look worse than it was. Margaret's expression didn't change. I'm not here to judge your personal choices, Eulalie, but I need to know that this kind of behavior won't happen again at company events. We have a reputation to maintain. Absolutely, it won't happen again. Good. I also want to remind you that our employee handbook has clear policies about workplace relationships and conduct that might create uncomfortable situations for other staff members. The implication was clear. Stay away from Felix, keep your personal drama out of the office, and pray this blows over quickly. Walking back to my desk, I felt every eye in the office tracking my movement. The brief conversation with Margaret had somehow made everything worse, confirming that my behavior was serious enough to warrant official attention. My phone rang. Adam's name appeared on the screen, and for a moment, I felt hope. Maybe he'd had time to think, to realize he was overreacting. Hi, I answered quietly. I need you to pick up Paige from school today, Adam said without preamble. I have a meeting after work. What kind of meeting? I asked, though something in his tone made me dread the answer. I'll tell you tonight. Can you handle pickup or not? The coldness in his voice was worse than anger would have been. Of course I can handle it. Adam, can we please talk about? Tonight, he cut me off. We'll talk tonight. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in the middle of the office. Around me, work continued as normal, but I felt like I was watching it all from behind glass, separated from the ordinary world by the consequences of one night's poor judgment. Lunch was a miserable affair. My usual group of work friends were polite but distant, their conversation carefully avoiding any mention of the weekend or the party. I ate my salad in silence, acutely aware that I'd become the office pariah in the span of 3 days. You okay, Eulalie? Asked Sarah from accounting, the same woman who'd encouraged me to pose for Instagram photos on Friday night. Fine, I lied. Just tired. Maybe take it easy for a while, she suggested gently. Let things settle down. The advice was well-meaning, but felt like another rejection. Everyone wanted me to disappear, to pretend Friday night had never happened, to quietly accept the social exile I'd earned through my own actions. By the time I left to pick up Paige, I was emotionally drained. The 7-year-old chatter about her school day was a welcome distraction from my own problems, but even that was tainted by worry about how my behavior might affect her social life. Did other parents know? Had teachers seen the video? Was my daughter going to pay the price for my mistakes? Mommy, why was Daddy sleeping in the other room? Paige asked as we drove home. Sometimes grown-ups need space to think, I said carefully. It doesn't mean anything bad. Emma's dad slept in another room before he moved out completely, Paige said matter-of-factly. Are you and Daddy getting divorced? The question hit me like a physical blow. No, sweetheart, Daddy and I just had a disagreement. We're going to work it out. But even as I said the words, I wasn't sure I believed them. Adam's coldness, the formal way he'd spoken to me on the phone, the mysterious meeting he'd mentioned, it all pointed to something more serious than a simple marital spat. When we got home, Adam's car was already in the driveway. I found him in the kitchen, a manila folder spread across the table. He looked up when we entered, his expression unreadable. Paige, why don't you go start your homework? He said gently. Mommy and I need to talk. Our daughter looked between us with the intuitive wisdom of children who know when something is seriously wrong. Are you going to fight again? We're going to have a calm conversation, Adam said. Go on upstairs. Once Paige was gone, Adam gestured to the folder. I think you should see this. Inside were printouts of social media posts, screenshots of text messages, and photos from the office party I didn't even remember being taken. The evidence of my behavior was laid out like exhibits in a trial, and I realized with growing horror that Adam had spent the weekend building a case against me. What is this? I asked, though the answer was obvious. Documentation, Adam said simply. I met with a lawyer today. He advised me to gather evidence of everything that happened. The words hit me like ice water. A lawyer? But in the context of everything else, they probably looked incriminating. Those were just friendly messages between coworkers, I said, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. Adam pulled out his phone and began reading aloud. Hope you're not in too much trouble with the husband. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you Monday. He looked up at me with eyes full of hurt. That was sent Saturday morning, Eulalie, while I was trying to figure out how to explain to our daughter why mommy's behavior was all over social media. The restaurant suddenly felt too small, too warm. Other diners were starting to glance in our direction, drawn by the tension at our table. Paige had stopped coloring entirely, her small hands clutched around a broken red crayon. Can we please not do this here? I whispered, gesturing toward our daughter. Where would you prefer? Janice asked sharply, because this conversation is long overdue. Adam has been making excuses for your behavior for months. The late nights at work, the distance, the way you prioritize everything except your family. But this video was the final straw. What do you mean making excuses? What has Adam told you? Dean and Janice exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. There had been conversations about me, discussions of my failings as a wife and mother. Family meetings where I wasn't invited, but was definitely the topic of conversation. Adam is a good man who deserves better than this, Janice said simply. And Paige deserves a mother who puts her family's reputation and well-being ahead of her own selfish desires. The accusation hit home because it contained a grain of truth I wasn't ready to acknowledge. I had been selfish, had been prioritizing my own needs and desires over my family's stability. But admitting that felt like surrendering, like accepting that I was the villain in this story. I love my family, I said, my voice breaking slightly. I made one mistake, one bad decision, and you're all acting like I'm some kind of monster. One mistake? Adam's composure finally cracked. Eulalie, you lied to me about where you were. You got drunk at a work function. You let another man touch you intimately while people recorded it. You posted it on social media for the world to see. Then you came home and tried to make it my fault. Which part of that counts as one mistake? The litany of my failures, laid out so starkly, made me realize how far I'd fallen from the woman Adam had married. But instead of accepting responsibility, I felt my defenses rising again. Fine, I said, my voice getting louder despite Paige's presence. I'm the worst wife in the world. But where were you, Adam? When's the last time you planned a date night? When's the last time you told me I looked beautiful? When's the last time you acted like you wanted to be married to me instead of just tolerating me? Mommy, Paige's small voice cut through our argument like a knife. Why are you and Daddy yelling? The entire table fell silent. Our 7-year-old daughter was staring at us with wide, frightened eyes, and I realized we'd been so caught up in our adult drama that we'd forgotten the most important person at the table. Adam immediately softened his voice. We're sorry, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups disagree about things, but that doesn't mean we don't love you. Are you getting divorced like Emma's parents? Paige asked, the question I'd been dreading. I can't do this anymore, Eulalie. He opened a thin folder. I filed for divorce today. I'm asking for primary custody with supervised visitation for you. Supervised visitation? I'm her mother. I'm protecting Paige from the chaos you created. The drinking, the behavior, the lack of judgment. Please, we can go to counseling. You had months to change. Every conversation became a fight where I was the problem. What about Paige? She's been asking why mommy doesn't want to spend time with us anymore. His words destroyed me. I love her. Love isn't enough if you can't put her needs first. He asked me to leave. You made your choices. Now live with the consequences. I'd lost everything that mattered. 3 weeks later, I sat in the sterile conference room of Hartwell and Associates, facing the complete destruction of my life. The law office smelled like leather and disappointment, its mahogany furniture and diplomas on the wall projecting an authority I felt powerless to challenge. Across from me sat Adam and his attorney, Michael Hartwell, surrounded by folders documenting my failures. Hartwell spread evidence across the table. The party video, social media posts, text messages with Felix, bank statements showing my lies. Pattern of deception spanning 6 months, he stated coldly. He revealed texts between Felix and me, my sister's statement about my drinking, employment warnings. Supervised visitation, Hartwell announced. 2 hours every other weekend. 4 hours monthly with my daughter, under supervision. Adam spoke quietly. I want to protect Paige. I'd lost everything, my marriage, my daughter, my life, all for one night of feeling desired. Some mistakes can't be undone.